to Rich Baker and Friends. My name is Rich Baker, and my friend with me today, Ned Record. He's a director, a writer, a cinematographer. He's wearing a cool hat. Like, he's done a lot of things. Actor. We've known each other for a long time. Super happy to have you on the show. Ned, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Baker.
Welcome, Mr. Record.
Of pastries.
Yeah, it's me. Another thing about me and Ned have done so many projects together. I don't know if this can be called a podcast since it's via Zoom, but if this is a podcast, it would be my third, and my second podcast was with you.
What was your first one?
My first one was called Living the Dream, and it was interview-based podcast. It was usually just one-on-one interviews with people who made their living in entertainment. I started doing that one when I was on the cruise ships. Oh, is that Heidi?
It's Friends, right? You're allowed plural.
Oh my goodness, Heidi. I miss her so much. Okay, so I did the math, and I'm pretty sure we met in 2002.
Yeah, it's going to be 2002, 2003.
Yeah, one of those.
The final semester. I graduated in 2003, and we met in the Richard Allen sketch comedy class, right? Yeah,
at Texas Christian University. So you were in the theater department. I was in the film department. We're like two different worlds. And then we came together, and it was...
Yeah, well, I came to you in the grand sense that you kept moving places, and I'd show up shortly thereafter, and then moved into your profession, because I quit the theater. So
yeah.
I still direct theater occasionally. Yeah,
you've had such a crazy... So, like, we both started out at TCU. We're both from Fort Worth, Texas. You know, we have that in common. And then we both went to TCU. And you got your major in theater, and I got my major in film. And then, but you went on after that to go get a master's degree in England.
Yeah. Well, in Shakespeare.
A master's degree in Shakespeare. Well, yeah, in Shakespeare in England.
I mean, semantic.
Yeah. It was at the Central School of Speech and Drama, right?
Well remembered.
I don't know why I don't remember a lot of details of things in my life, but for some reason, a few of them stick in the head, and that one does for some reason. If I recall, here's another thing I think I recall. David Tennant went to your college?
You recall incorrectly.
Oh! Who is the famous person that went to that was alumni?
Olivier, Judi Dench, Riz Ahmed.
Wasn't one of the Doctor Who's?
Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor Who that went there.
Nice.
Riz is our most recent success story.
Who's Riz?
Riz Ahmed, The Night Of. He was in... He's most recently in Venom.
Okay. The Night Of on HBO. Yeah. That real dramatic one.
He was also in Nightcrawler. I think he was in a couple episodes of Girls.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Good kid.
What was I went to England just to visit for a week. What was it like to live there and go to school there? Like, how different was it from America, all that stuff?
Well, so I had the added weirdness of not only did I live in England, I lived in a neighborhood that was the largest concentration of Hasidic Jews in Europe. Maybe Europe, at least that part of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely an interesting experience, just because like my weekends and days, it was surrounded by a culture. I was just very, very. They kept to that neighborhood.
Mm.
So it was very not Strangers in a Strange Land. I think it's The Witness. It's a Melanie Griffith movie where she ends up sort of going into the Hasidic community, and it was fascinating. But on the grander scale, it was strange because everyone's like, oh, because there's this and this and this. I didn't do a lot. We were in class 90 hours a week.
Is that hyperbole or is
No, that's legitimate.
Wow.
Got there. What's 90 divided by 5?
Yeah, like 13 a day or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably about right. I was probably there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
Well, it was 90 hours a week if you count the commute, I think, at the end of the day. That's probably what I was figuring.
Fair.
Because it was practically a conservatory program. And then on weekends, it's like, if I got lucky, I yeah, I got to go out and see a thing or two on the
Yeah.
weekend, but a lot of that was, I mean, we were studying Shakespeare, so it was just hammering in that text all weekend. So, in a lot of senses, I didn't notice a difference, but I did because when I lived in, or when I went to TCU, I grew up in Fort Worth. I grew up 3 miles away from the college campus. My parents both went there. My mother worked there, and I didn't never lived on the dorms. I didn't really participate in campus life. I was only at TCU for 2 years.
Hmm.
I went to junior college or community college for the others just because it's cheaper.
Sure. I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked it better, but that's dogging a school that I don't necessarily need to be dogging right now.
But so you're in class all the time. I mean, like, is it just like learning technique, memorizing, performing, rehearsing, just like that kind of stuff?
I mean, we're on a given day, we'd have like 2 hours of vocal training. We'd have an hour of movement training. There was voice and text. There was academic, where we were like really breaking down, like, from an academic standpoint, the text. We didn't do that as much because the real push for the program was that Shakespeare is not a book. It is not a novel that is to be sat and read quietly. It's a play. It's meant to be performed. Its life exists being performed. So we tried to get up on our feet as much as possible. So usually half the day was spent doing scenes, doing monologues, and fiddling. So, I mean, yeah, it was a very intensive program. And then usually at the end of the night, the reason we were there so long is that, class would end and then we'd go to grab some food, come back. And just as a group of like 3 or 4 of us would just work our monologues, work our scenes. We wouldn't stop practicing. It was weird. It shifted my way of thinking. I was lazy as an actor most of my life growing up, and then I got into this place. And when I got into that school, I was just like, I can't. What's our rating on this? Can I swear?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay. I got into Central. I'm like, I can't fuck around anymore. I've got to start taking this a little more seriously. So I just started throwing myself into it, and that's where the time. Not everyone was going 13 hours a day, but there was a good 25% of the program was psychotic, and also the 25% that's still working. So,
and like you do all that, and it was what, 2 years?
Yeah.
So you're going that hard that for 2 years. That's quite a bit of intense. Did you consider staying in England or in Europe after you were done?
No, there were 2 big reasons not to. Number one, my now wife.
Sure.
We were dating. We'd been together for like 2 years when I left. So it's interesting because when I got back, I'd been away from the relationship physically longer than about the same amount of time we'd been together, but we definitely grown in that time.
Yeah.
And number 2, I was told, I keep peeking up this piece of plastic.
Because you don't like to just sit. You're a mover and shaker.
Yes. I was told by the guy running the course that if I wanted to stay in England, I was going to have to resign myself to playing Americans for the rest of my life.
Really?
No Shakespeare, really. Realistically, the Royal Shakespeare Company wasn't going to be bringing in a lot of Americans that weren't already established performers.
Yeah.
And I missed my opportunity because I had gotten an opportunity with the Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good show.
Yeah. They had a 10-year run in the West End in London. I mean, huge. Their theater was right off of Piccadilly Circus. Like, amazing venue. And they were losing one of their actors and had reached out to our course leader and said, you don't happen to have an American male that can do comedy on your course? And he goes, I have exactly what you just asked me for. Wow. So I met with these guys. I interviewed, I auditioned, I got cast. They asked me when I was done. I said, I finish May 28th. They're like, great, May 30th, you're in. And they closed April 10th. and never reopened.
So you did the show for like 11 days.
No, you've got your. I was gonna be free May 30th. They closed.
Oh, May 30th. Oh,
yeah.
So they weren't anticipating closing. Clearly,
No, they just kind of up and decided. You know what? Now's as good a time as any. It's been a good run, and I'm like, but.
So you're telling me that like they fully
could've been
intended to go past May 30th. They cast you, they did everything, and then they just changed their mind?
Yep.
I've had so many of those moments, I feel, in my career too, where it's like, it didn't, I just missed something.
Yeah.
So, and then you were like, hey, let's get the heck back to the US at that point.
Yeah, and I when I was living in Albuquerque, they were doing that show, and they talked about casting me in it, and they're like, "How'd you like it? We might cast you in it." And I'm like, one, I'm never auditioning for that show again because, yeah,
Sore spot.
it's kind of a sore subject. If they reopen on Broadway, we can discuss it. But
Fair.
but I'm like, look, I'll slum it a little for some things, but not for that show. It's sort of like, congratulations, we're bringing you into the minor leagues. Oh, something happened. How would you like to, complete beer league t-ball with us instead? I'm like, I wouldn't like that.
No, I'm laying up.
We think you'd be great. I would be great, but I'd also be crying every night. So
yeah, and there is no crying in beer league baseball. So you come back to the U.S. and why Chicago? Because I moved to Chicago in 2005, and I think you followed me like that same year or just the year after.
Yeah, it would have been 2006 because I left London in 2004. Why Chicago? So when I left London, there were a couple of us. There were three of us from the U.S. who all knew we weren't going to be staying in London.
Yeah,
but we didn't really know where we wanted to go. We didn't know if New York was the answer, because it's a great theater town, but I still equate it with musicals more than I do
gotcha. Yeah.
theater. So we all flew to Chicago. One person from New York, one person from Seattle, and me coming from my mom's house in DFW because I didn't have I didn't have a home.
Sure, yeah.
Live anywhere. So we flew to Chicago, spent 3 days there. Talked to the casting director at Looking Glass, the casting director over at Steppenwolf. We just met a lot of people, and then we got in a car and drove 3,500 miles, which has been a theme in my life, as you know. And we just drove, and we met theater people in Tennessee. We met them in South Carolina, in Washington, D.C., a bunch in New York.
There's still the same three friends, the New Yorker, the Seattle, and you, just driving over the U.S., just meeting people.
Yeah, and at the end of it, one of them decided New York was the place for her. One of them had already made up her mind. She was a New Yorker anyways.
Mm-hmm.
They have both since quit acting.
Okay.
I found it interesting. And then something had drawn me to Chicago. I think a lot of it, we'd gone to a blues bar because it was the first time in Chicago. We figured,
sure,
well, why not? And, it's a crowded blues bar. This overweight blues singer's just up there singing along on her stool. And she's like, you know what? I don't want to sing alone for this one. Just drag me up on stage.
Just a random audience volunteer just grabbed her?
Just singing the blues with her. I'm like, oh my God, that was incredible.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So I joked that first time I was in Chicago, I was singing the blues, and then I moved to Chicago and had a reason to sing the blues.
Yeah.
Because, that first winter was just like, oh, this is just the worst.
It's really bad. So you'd gone there to check it out. You and Jess were fiancés at the time?
Yeah, she had always kind of thought New York was where she wanted to go, and I sold her on Chicago. I was just like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to give this a try for a while, but if you want to come up, we could do this together. And when she said sure, I was like, okay. And that's when I proposed to her, because it was like, she decided home was with me, which I still feel that way.
Yeah, y'all been together for a while now.
Yeah, 17 years as a couple, 12 and a half married. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's still, she points out we still act like we're dating at times. So
Cute. So Chicago, I at least saw you 5 or 6 times in different shows in Chicago. Like you kind of did the circuit there. You were making your rounds.
yeah, for a bit. I got jaded after the first year and stopped auditioning and just only was like, yeah. I'll do a show if you cast me in it. I'm not auditioning for this.
Oh, nice. Cast only after a year? Well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, but I have a strong stance on that now. That was actually part of my downfall. Is that when you do that, you're not challenging yourself. You're not testing your own limits. You're going with people who want you so badly that they're willing to accept you sight unseen, essentially.
Right, yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you have chemistry with the rest of the cast. It doesn't matter if you're doing all this. So I think in the long run it was a bad idea because I was working with people that needed me more than I needed them. So I was not growing as an actor. I wasn't challenging myself. I felt like the prettiest girl at prom whose dance card was full. That was a mixed before. I get that, but
no, I get it absolutely. Did you ever and I don't know why I don't know this some of this stuff, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Did you ever audition for Steppenwolf or Goodman or Looking Glass or The Gift or any of those equity, the big equity houses?
No.
Just not even that first year when you were still auditioning?
No. Yeah. I did 11 shows the first year I was in Chicago.
Wow.
So I told myself I didn't have time, and that's another fault of all this. But that kind of stems to what I'm sure we'll get to later. My heart was just never in it.
Into theater acting?
Just acting, I think, ultimately.
Oh, wow.
I think all along I was acting. I said one day when I thought about, as actors, you always dream. You're like, oh, I'm going to win an Academy Award someday. Like, we've all had those dreams.
Of course.
In every one of those dreams, I never accepted the award for acting. It was always directing film.
Huh.
And yet it took moving to LA to go, oh, maybe I should be a film director since that's obviously what I want to do.
Interesting. So you're logging, 13 hours a day at school, 5 days a week for 2 years, and you're dreaming of being a director.
Yeah, but I think I didn't put professional actor on a pedestal the way a lot of people do. I put professional director on a pedestal.
Gotcha.
Professional actor was something I was doing. Before I even left for that grad school, I was a voice actor with Funimation.
Yeah, you. What shows did you do with them?
Blue Gender.
I know this is 20 plus years ago. Because I knew they did Dragon Ball Z, but also knew they did a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know about. I
was a couple stomach punches. I know they used me as a stock stomach punch for some Dragon Ball Z stuff.
Get in here, get punched in the stomach.
Well, no, I did it for one cartoon, and then a couple years later, I was in, and I was like, yeah, no. And they're like, Ned Record. And they're like, yeah, they go, Ned Record stomach punch. And I'm like, sorry, what? They're like, no, I've always wondered. It's like, we use this thing. It says Ned Record stomach punch. I never knew what that was.
Oh my God, that's amazing. It's so funny. The guy I interviewed a friend of mine who still lives in Texas, who runs a Texas radio theater company, and we were talking about Funimation Studios, about how there was all this work for voice actors that I think no one would have guessed. Even people living in Dallas Fort Worth wouldn't have even guessed that there's a little industry it's still there.
Yeah, it was really funny too because when I first started with them, it was in a bank. It was the second floor of a bank.
Wow.
I'm just like, all right, that's weird. And I still, I'm still connected to people. Like the guy that edited my feature is a major voice actor. Like people know him.
Oh, nice.
Pretty well. I think I could not tell you what characters he played because Android 17 or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. That's
right. Okay, so you lived in Chicago for a while, and then you made a fun detour to New Mexico, and then you finally decided to come to LA. What was the tipping point of let's go west?
The Manifest Destiny. What prompted that?
Yeah.
It was a plan all along. We knew that. We
LA
knew
was always the goal.
we knew that when we left Chicago, we went on a 7,000-mile road trip interviewing cities. Because again, no offense to Chicago, there was a lot of animosity towards it when we left,
Mm-hmm.
and it was literally because I got a bad review for a Shakespeare I'd adapted that they just said was way too commonplace. Like they're like, you
Okay.
forgot about the glory. You made it too like conversational. And then that same reviewer praised Joss Whedon's Much Ado
Oh,
for
interesting.
doing the exact same thing. And I was
Weird.
like,
Yeah.
you just saw this.
It's
Done.
so
The
weird.
difference is I have a degree in it and he doesn't.
Yeah.
But so we just knew. I mean, it's like dating. It's cities, the place you live, your home. You've got to love it.
Absolutely.
And if you're in a bad relationship, Chicago was a great college girlfriend. We had some fun. She was a little cold, but
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, we drove around and just kind of we kept a binder, and we're like, oh, this works here, this works here. I like this, I like this. We knew Jessica specifically, my wife. For those who
No.
don't,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I forget that I'm not just talking to you. Where do I keep getting stuff from?
I just have things, and I just keep touching things. That's what I do. Ah.
I'm about to pick up a deck of playing card and just start doing magic tricks. I probably will, actually.
I mean, fine. Like, you could juggle. You've got so many skills. You could do tons of things while you're talking. Probably not even think about them.
So, anyways.
So you're going around interviewing cities.
So we're going around interviewing cities. We get to LA, and we were like, I mean, Jessica, my wife, just has a look for film.
Yeah, she's got a great look. She's great on camera.
Great stage actress. I believe that fully. I believe Chicago didn't. That was one of the reasons we left, is that they never appreciated her, which was really odd because I'd cast her in things all the time, and when I did, Time Out, the Times, all these places would just be like, "Oh, this woman's delightful. We love her. She was fantastic," but no one else was casting her, despite the fact that like. She's beautiful, she's incredibly talented, and she's a hard worker. But they wanted the Chicago theater look. So we knew she needed to make the transition into film. So we knew LA was definitely on the cards. We drove around. We ended up at our grandparents' cabin in Colorado that we kind of plumped down in for a month or two while we thought it through, and just realized that financially speaking, we didn't have any credits to our name on film. We didn't have any experience. And moving to LA at that point was just not necessarily a financially viable option.
Yeah.
Albuquerque, New Mexico was. They were filming Breaking Bad there. They were doing a couple movies. And in that regard, it worked out for us. We didn't get into Breaking Bad because we moved there. And then they were like, oh, by the way, last season, and it's fully cast. We're like, oh, great. And meanwhile, the governor at the time goes, oh, and the tax incentive, we're getting rid of that. So a lot of places were pulling out of filming. But this was before they started up Better Call Saul and some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, but, we got a few little bit parts here and there on stuff. And enough to go, okay, I think we're good. When we moved there, we're like, yeah, we'll give it 2 or 3 years. When we moved to Chicago, we said we'll give it 4 or 5 years. Stayed in Chicago for 5, stayed in New Mexico for 2. So we picked up everything and moved out to LA and never set a deadline. And now it's almost 6 years.
Yeah, you've been here almost as I didn't do Mexico, or London, but we have the 3 cities in common, and like you moved here just shortly thereafter me.
Beginning, middle, end, we've got together.
Yeah, it's lovely. So now you're a film director, and and I'm a film director too, and I love it. But I think that a lot of people probably don't understand is that most directors are not directing like multi-million-dollar budget, things. You and I are directing things that I think, at least as far as SAG's concerned, will be considered micro budget kinds of
Yeah.
things, with like just bare necessities. And there's a whole skill level to being able to direct something when you can't just throw money at the problem. So
Yeah.
talk about your first, and correct me if I'm wrong, your first time directing anything was really your feature.
Yes. I wasn't even supposed to direct it. I was supposed to be in it. And the director, the guy that we brought in to direct, decided that it was too much for him and suggested I direct it. And I was like, well, if I'm going to direct it, I'm not going to be in it. And
Smart.
so, huh?
Smart.
Yeah. Well,
I've directed things that I've been in, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot.
I know I've assistant directed things that you've directed.
Yes, you did.
But yeah. So I started out on a ultra low budget. So I've actually stepped down over time. I could do what I did again. I'm pretty sure I could raise the same, if not more money again. But I kind of made the decision that before I jump back into it, I want a little more. I want to be more capable. I want to be just like that was a crash course in filmmaking. And as I said, at the end of we shot a 87, 90 minute, something like that, feature film, shot it in 12 consecutive days. And then had to come back for one reshoot day.
Yeah.
But as a friend of mine, one of the producers put it, they're like, yeah, we didn't pay for this to be a blockbuster film. We paid for it to be a crash film school for you. And it really was.
Oh, wow. So your investors not only were understanding, but they were like, this is what we wanted. Like, we're basically like, we're investing in your education.
Yeah. They're like, we didn't think this was going to make you money. I was like, oh, okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you told me this once. So just in case we didn't say it, it was a feature film adaptation of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
Yes, of which your lovely host was my rather obnoxious Malvolio.
Yeah.
Great job in it.
Well, it's funny. You weren't original. Thank you. That means a lot. You weren't originally scheduled to direct it, and I was not originally cast as Malvolio.
Yeah, no offense. I love you, buddy. But yeah, we'd cast an older actor.
Because it's an old, it's typically an older part,
Yeah.
And I'm still in my 30s.
And we had a slight issue where the one of the producers did not want to cut the tie with the guy that was stringing us along, and unbeknownst to her, I cast her a full week before we got rid of him.
Nice. Yeah, I remember thinking because I wasn't expecting it the part. Like it was, I think I told you this. I did one Shakespeare scene once in high school. It wasn't even for performance. It was just like in class. And so I acted, and I don't even remember the scene, but so I don't have a lot of Shakespeare tread on my tires. So I just auditioned just to give it a shot. And then when you call them like, hey, we're shooting in a week, you good? And I'm like, what? I was like, memorize.
I'm sorry about that because you had that 3-page script or monologue.
We got through it. We figured out. I appreciated your patience because I was like, I just didn't.
Well, it was like it's one of those times that a costume choice is dictated by necessity. That we had you in a Bluetooth earpiece to look like that douchey guy.
Yeah.
But it was also so during that scene you could have another actor. Yep, there it is.
Yep.
Yeah, he had another actor giving him a phone call and feeding him his lines.
Yeah.
And if you're mean, can see all the deleted scenes and the outtakes. You can watch it happen sometimes where Rich is just like, to be Count Malvolio.
Well, and I think you knew this. If I didn't tell you this, I'm happy to tell you now. That's how because I didn't memorize the audition either. So basically, like what I had that guy doing was, an ear prompter, for anyone who doesn't know, is it's a thing that a lot of industrial actors use. Is industrials, you deal with a lot of technical stuff. You're like, the specs on this air conditioning unit. And you're saying, right, yeah, it would take you forever to memorize all that. So what they do is they just read the script into, back then it was a tape recorder, now it'd be your cell phone. And they'd read their lines at the pace, roughly, that they would need to say them. And so I did that with the monologue for the audition. I read my lines, as I wanted to off the page, put it in my ear, and filmed myself just doing ear prompter. I didn't have a ton of experience with ear prompter, but a little bit. And so when I just couldn't memorize, or I didn't, I'm sure I could have, but when I didn't memorize the monologue for the day, I was like, I know how to fix this. So,
No, like I couldn't have done it.
what's that?
I couldn't have done that.
The ear prompter thing?
No, I'm glad no one dropped out.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. But so, as you said, it was an education. So you learned a lot about directing, and you've directed some things since then.
Yeah, I've got
shorter in duration, not features, but
yeah, it's a web series, a couple sketches, and at this point, 4 or 5 short films.
nice.
So,
So,
and a proof of concept.
right? Yeah.
20-minute proof of concept.
So you're putting some tread on the tires. You're getting some experience, and you so like, what is the ultimate goal to be like a Hollywood big budget director? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I've got a couple scripts in the work that are. I mean, one of them in particular is like we figured if we do it bare bones, it's a $6 million feature.
Wow.
Which is still on the low side.
Yeah, in Hollywood, like I mean, I'm saying wow because I'm working on things that are like $10,000, but like in Hollywood, a million, 6 million, in anything under 10 is still considered low budget.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And we haven't even talked about all your circus performing, your juggler, your magician, your stilt walker. You do all kinds of stuff. And you did some kind of was it trapeze? Some kind of gymnastics thing or something?
I mean, I've done aerial stuff. So
Aerials, that's the term. Yeah, aerial stuff. Yeah.
Stilts and Lear, I'm terrible at it. It's like watching. You go to the circus and they put a seal on a trapeze. That's about what it was like when I did it. To balance a ball on my nose, but
whatever the job entails. So, what do you get any projects that are about to be coming out, or like what? Where can people find some stuff?
Well, we've got a web series called The Wanda Wynette Show.
Yeah, I've watched some of those featuring your lovely wife.
Featuring my lovely wife as a 50-year-old Southern woman trying to teach you how to be fancy.
Nice.
Which draws heavily from both of our upbringings. Yeah, I got a short. I'm just now wrapping up, and then it's looking like in the next week or so we're going to go into pre-production for a feature film that's going to be shot entirely adhering to the Safer at Home guidelines.
A film being made during COVID-19 when everyone's got to stay indoor and you're figuring out a way. I love it. It's fantastic.
Global cast and it's interesting. It's weird. There's been no like auditioning or anything for it, and I won't because at this point I'm like, nope, I don't. I can only work with actors that I know I can work with. So I'm just calling into a lot of people. You for one, just to needs to toot your horn. I'm just bringing in people that like I said, I know I can work with, and I know I can trust, and I know are sitting around doing fuck all.
I mean, that's literally everyone right now. Everyone's sitting around doing fuck all.
Right, exactly.
So perfect timing. And if people want to see any of your short films, anything, they would go to your YouTube, Hollywood Shakespeare on YouTube.
Yes. Oh, nice. Yeah. There's that whole series too, the high concept stuff. There's a 3-part series. We did a film noir, a nod to Ed Wood sci-fi, and a French art film, all centered around the theme of cannabis usage.
Those were a lot of fun to do, and they're super fun on the rewatch too. And in fact, my mom watches everything I do, which is sorry we're cursing, Mom. But
this is why I asked. I am sorry, Mrs. Baker.
No, she gets it. I'm an adult. It happens. I curse sometimes. But one of her favorite things that she keeps talking about that I did was the film noir Bud Flowers. Like that is one of, she says, oh, I just love it. It's just so fun, and I'm just like, all right, cool.
A lot of compliments on the writing of that one. Just being, I think you for one were like, this is well done. I was like, thanks.
No, it's a good, like I had a good time.
Everything else I've ever written.
We didn't even talk about how we've used the same location for like
Hollywood Shakespeare Studios. Yes,
Hollywood. Yeah, the common room in my apartment building is unofficial Hollywood Shakespeare Studios.
So much there.
Yeah, how many more times can we make that room look like something different?
Well, it was so funny when we filmed Rich and his business partner. I'm assuming John is your business
Yep.
partner. That's a bit. I just don't know what that arrangement is. They've hired me as their cinematographer and editor for a couple projects, and we filmed a bit in that room, and I just kind of looked and I was like, oh, I guess it does look like this, because it was the first time I'd ever filmed in it and not completely redressed it to look like,
Yeah,
you know,
something
an
totally different.
office
Yeah.
or in
Or
one
what?
case a field. I still can't believe we pulled that one off. Well, you didn't pull it off. I mean, that's kind of the joke. It's like,
Yeah. Great. Well, check out Hollywood Shakespeare at YouTube, and if you want to see Ned's feature film, 12th Night, it is on Amazon Prime. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, and looking forward to working with you on some other stuff in the future. But thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.